Hey, did you know that de-extinction is a thing? It's the ultimate middle finger to Mother Earth. Yeah, that's about it. I can go more in detail, but I don't really feel like it. Alright, fine, I'll go into detail. So, de-extinction. I can't do it. I can't do. So de-extinction is the process of, who would have guessed it, undoing extinction. Yeah, I know. But in recent times, it's become much more commonality for people to start discussing it and what to do once it's become more developed. There's places like the Pleistocene Park in Siberia, which are planning to restore the grazing ecosystems of tundras. But that's just sort of the tip of the melting iceberg in terms of conversations. For example, are we really creating these animals, or are we just making Frankenstein monsters that look like these animals? I'd argue it's the latter, but you know, who cares what a child thinks on the internet, you know? I for sure don't. Alright, I'm just gonna start talking about de-extinction. So, to me, there's like 3 main methods of de-extinction that have been used. That's selective breeding, nuclear transfer, and a third one that I don't remember the name of. This is a really scrambled rant. So, selective breeding. Can anyone think of anything bad that's happened with selective breeding? I think, yes, definitely. Spider ball pythons, pugs, literally most types of cats. I'm sorry, cats. I love cats. Domestic short hairs. The best. Anyway, yeah, selective breeding has been a mess for a long time. But, did you know that they're using selective breeding to bring back things like the oryx? Yeah, the oryx was a massive oxen species, and if you don't know what it is, look at the cave paintings. I swear, it's the oldest, animal ever seen. And also, its child looks like an otter in the cave painting. I don't care what people say, that's what it looks like. I must sound super aggressive in this video, I don't care. In the 20th century, people believed that the oryx characteristics survived scattered amongst modern-day cattle. Backbreeding attempts have been attempted by many, including the heck cattle, which is one of the most prominent ones. There's a story a while back, some farmer in Devon culled his herd of heck cattle because they're too aggressive. The heck cattle was bred by Nazis. Yeah, it was bred by Nazi brothers. But the heck cattle are a prominent species to represent sort of de-extinction as a whole. And the heck cattle that the Nazis bred were made to serve the purpose of bringing back European meadows. So, interpret that as you will. Anyway, moving on from hecking to quaggas. So quaggas are another interesting study because a guy named Reynold Rao at the South African Cape Museum discovered from some skin tissue of a baby quagga that they are not in fact their own separate species, but instead a subspecies of the plain zebra. And because of this, backbreeding is much easier than it would be of any other animal, due to the fact that subspecies are fairly similar to their mother species. Because of this, the quagga have been backbred in a way known as the Rao quagga, which, like the heck cattle, aren't complete examples of the current day quagga, but it's enough that a lot of people say we have the quaggas now. Ethics, am I right? Okay. We're moving on to the more scientific ones, which leads to ethics questioning a lot more. Because we're moving on to nuclear transfer. And I heard a lot of people complain for nuclear transfer because you're basically making things, and I can't think of an instance where nuclear transfer didn't have an effect on the clone in terms of respiratory issues, which I think is something that just, I don't know, doesn't fully sit well with me. But nuclear transfer is creating a genetic clone by removing the DNA from an unfertilized egg and replacing it with a nucleus that has the desired DNA. This is what made Dolly Parton the sheep cloned, and the puppies, cows, and literally everything else that has been cloned. Now, the way I say that makes it sound like nuclear transfer is easy. It's not. It's very rare and difficult to produce. But the goal is for the egg to begin to divide like a normal cell, and there has been one species that has been de-extincted through nuclear transfer. It is also the only species to have gone extinct twice, so I think that's sort of telling of how much nuclear transfer is useful. But the Pyrenean ibex was de-extinct for 7 minutes and then died of respiratory failure. As I said, I think there could be an argument to make about nuclear transfer in the fact that, you know, a lot of them have birth defects from being cloned. And while the nuclear transfer has the chance of de-extincting populations, it only does so with live or frozen cells, and it's immensely difficult reproducing an entire population through this type of cloning. And finally, we have CRISPR technology. CRISPR uses pretty much any fragment of organic material to collect a full genome through sequencing. CRISPR can then edit the genetics of a closely living relative of the extinct animal to create features similar to the extinct one. Think of it like, I'm trying to think. Let's say the flamingo went extinct. Its most common relative is the grebe, so they're like, okay, hello waterfowl, we're going to impregnate you with a separate animal's embryo, have fun with this, give birth to a flamingo for us. But the drawback of CRISPR for many is that it can never clone an extinct animal back to life. It's similar to selective breeding in that way. CRISPR edits the genomes of a pre-existing one to have the physical characteristics of one. So for a woolly mammoth, it would be inserting an Asian elephant embryo to make it super hairy and tall. I was gonna make a joke, but I am sort of brain dead right now and just want to finish this voiceover. Technology is getting to the point where woolly mammoths are closer to being replicated with multiple projects in development. But we have to ask, should we? I think natural science's improvements in the past 100 years is very telling, considering that the passenger pigeons, just a little over 100 years later, have been sequenced and reassembled. Other animals have also had their genome sequenced, but it just further leads to a debate on whether we should continue to work through de-extinction. So I'm going to break this apart into two separate arguments, one against and one for. Probably won't doing it. So, here are the arguments for de-extinction. Obviously, I think the public would love the idea of bringing back things they feel bad about killing in the first place. Like, oh hey, we've tamed cats. Oh hey, Mauritius, what is this? Oh, sorry, we killed all your birds. So I think that's one pro in its favor. It's going to be very endorsed by the public. It could potentially lead to more biodiversity, and it also could reduce the amount of greenhouse gas emissions. I say could, very specifically, because some thoughts are that introducing mega grazers like woolly mammoths to the tundras could maintain a grazing ecosystem and get rid of a ton of the trees that are bothering that area. This is the thought process of Sergei Zimov, who did the Pleistocene Park efforts. However, now we have our arguments against de-extinction. Firstly, the funding of this could be taking away money for animals that we are currently trying to conserve. Which, no offense to extinct ones, but I mean, they're already dead. Others argue that if de-extinction becomes an easy, replicable process, politicians no longer advocate for endangered animals. They believe that you can just bring them back again, unaware of how difficult it is to reproduce this process. And finally, some question if these extinct genomes are what makes these animals them. I already mentioned this, but yeah. So, CRISPR and selective breeding both don't really bring back the species. They bring back some who've been genetically edited or bred to look like a certain animal. Many argue that there might not be a place for these animals anymore, and you can sort of just look at the passenger pigeon. It's one of the clearest examples. They flew in flocks of millions, and if they were to come back, they'd stain the cities with more bird poop than in Rome with the starling invasion. The landscape's unrecognizable now. Yeah, I already mentioned that point. So yeah, those are all of the sort of conversations people have had about de-extinction. And I'll let you make your own opinion, but it's basically for or against the argument that we sort of play God with the animals on this earth. And another thought for de-extinction is that a lot of the biodiversity has evolved to overcome the extinction of these animals, and if we bring them back, we could cause the extinction of animals that have took their place. Think of like the Tasmanian tiger in Tasmania. If you were to remove the Tasmanian tiger and bring it back, Tasmanian devils, which have become the primary apex predator of Tasmania. I know that's a weird thing to think of because they're the size of a household cat. But the Tasmanian devils would no longer be that predator and could be on the verge of extinction. And that could lead to even more questions. Alright, I'm out. Do your work, scientists. I mean, geez. Also, sorry, there's a bunch of children outside, so the background noise is probably going to get a lot worse. Anyway, what else am I going to do? Alright, continuing my rant about de-extinction. De-extinction is quite a difficult topic to just really argue about because it's not like something definite. We don't know what's going to happen when the first mammoth appears. It's just an argument of if we should do it. Should humans get a chance to play God with a bunch of mammoths? That, who knows? Jurassic Park's not going to happen, but I don't know. Woolly mammoths in the Arctic might coincide with the first certain millionaires' ideas of what they want to do with the Arctic. I'm talking about those ones who build stuff there. I'm not looking up things right now never mind. The point is, the world is full of confusion, political beliefs, and I only have one political belief, for now, and that is, de-extinction is complicated, and anyone who has a finite idea on whether de-extinction is a good or bad thing, I hope you've listened to me rant, I hope you've listened to me slowly unravel and grow eczema from every single pore on my body due to the sheer amount of stress I go through when I have to argue. And I hope you hear this and you think, maybe not. And if you don't, I have many other reasons for it again. For example, the money from the extinction, the money funded for the extinction, could potentially take away money from the politicians might think that if the extinction becomes easily accessible, they'll no longer focus on conserving animals, which I personally think is a little bit of a weak argument due to the fact that, as I've established, currently the extinction doesn't even bring back the animals in most cases. Thirdly, I don't know, it's a complicated issue, and to be honest, there are much better things for me to unravel about, and as you'll see quite shortly, I unravel very quickly in Parkinson's.